Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, your hero, Benjamin Banks. And on today's review, we are reviewing Raya and the Last Dragon. And joining me is a former guest, Miss Becca. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for joining me on today's video review. But before we get into today's video, make sure that you like this video, you subscribe to the channel, and you hit the bell button so that way you're always notified when the boys at Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks have a new video out. So let's go ahead and get into today's video. So Raya and the Last Dragon, it came out today on Disney Plus, and this was a movie that I did not watch any of the trailers to because I'm one of those type of people now where it's like I don't want to watch the trailers or anything. I just want to watch a movie based off of hype. Becca, I know that you had talked with me about this movie, and when you had talked with me and told me that we were going to do this, I had looked at some pictures and I was just like, okay, it looks interesting. Like I can't wait to check it out. And going all the way back to the whole trailer thing I was just mentioning, The Lighthouse had came out that had William Dafoe and Robert Pattinson in it. And I had only known Robert Pattinson from Twilight. So when it got announced that he was going to be playing Batman, I was just like, okay, let me see this movie so that way I can see, how far he's come as an actor. And I thought that the movie was phenomenal. I don't know. Have you seen The Lighthouse?
Have I seen The Lighthouse? No, but I did see the trailer with him as Batman. So
Okay.
that did it did help. I'm gonna give it that. As far as watching the trailers for movies, I think you make an excellent point in that sometimes when you watch a trailer, it gives you a little bit too much
Yep.
and it sets your expectations somewhere. And so I know that there have been movies where I saw the trailer and I was like, I would have been happy with just the trailer because after watching this movie, I'm like, this did not live up to anything that I had in the moment. Interestingly enough, the live action Mulan movie made me feel that way, where the trailer had me so hyped. And then I watched the actual movie and I was like, but then you have, is it no, Robert Patterson. I always get Robert Patterson and Pat Robertson confused.
Oh yeah, the guy from Terminator, right? What's his name?
No, I'm talking about the guy who runs CBN over here in Virginia Beach.
Oh, okay.
Like the evangelist. So no, they're very different people.
Yes. But no,
but I mean, it kind of sold me on the idea of him playing Batman, which I could not think of before, because I think a lot of people still had in their minds the association with Twilight.
Exactly.
And
exactly. And I was one of those people.
Dissociate from that as much as everybody else did.
Yeah, it's it's one of those things where it's like I want to say for me, I believe it was Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. That's what it was called. And I remember it's just like I watched the first trailer and I was just like, okay, I'm looking forward to this. And then we kept getting more trailers, and then in each trailer, more and more was being revealed. I was just like, dang, so why are they showing Doomsday? Why is Doomsday even in this movie? I feel like if I would have had never seen that trailer and I would have just watched the movie, I still would have probably been pissed because Doomsday, I don't know how well you are with the DC stuff, but Doomsday is kind of like an Omega level villain. You know what I'm saying? He kills Superman. Spoiler alert for those people that don't know. Spoiler alert if you didn't know. But he kills Superman, and I'm just like, well, why is he appearing in this movie? It's too early for this guy to be appearing. So with Raya, I watched the movie, I enjoyed it, and I'm glad that we're doing this video review for it. And just to start off on it, also when I heard it was called Raya and the Last Dragon, my first thought was automatically Bruce Leroy from The Last Dragon, because I love that. I love that movie. I made a meme today, and that meme picture is going to be used for the cover photo for this YouTube video. But The Last Dragon, that's my thing. If you've never watched The Last Dragon, it's a Berry Gordy kung fu movie that came out in the 80s, and it's over the top with music, action, and watch it. 10 out of 10, that's what I give it. But getting back to Raya and the Last Dragon, our story, it starts off with Raya she's in a dystopian land where she's just like, the land didn't always look like this, but it got this way because of me. So we go back to when she was still a child, 6 years ago, and her father, Chief Benja, he's training her so that way that she can be the protector of the dragon emerald. And she ends up passing the test. And what her father wants, he wants, the lands to come back together how they originally were when it was named Kamundra. But what happened was the last dragon, Sisu, she ended up using her powers of the magic gem so that way that she could rid the world of the creatures. Man, I can't remember what the creatures were called, and I wrote all my notes down. Do you remember what they were called, Becca?
Like drones, I believe.
Drones?
Yeah, I think they're called drones. So it's
drones.
kind of this powerful purple grayish fog that is evil and it's befalling the land. And if it touches a person or if it touches the dragon, then they turn to stone.
Yep.
And they can't be released. So that the dragons came together, they create this stone that is able to kind of ward them off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting how it shows this because Sisu, she doesn't make the stone. Like you said, the dragons, they end up making the stone, and she uses all of her magic to rid the world of the drones. And when she does this, it, like you said, it turns all of the dragons into stone, including herself. And the world kind of divides because they want the orb. And because of this, it's like all of the nations, it's like they don't trust each other. I don't know if you've watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, but
it was heavy.
Yeah,
but the influence was heavy.
Yeah, exactly. Right. With this movie, I found influences from Avatar: The Last Airbender and Mulan. I felt like it was a mixture of those two. And so, like I was saying, we see that Raya, she is being trained by her father and whatnot, and her father, he wants to try and unite all of the nations again. And by doing this, he has pretty much a get together for all of them to come. And Raya, she ends up meeting the princess of Talon. I'm sorry, not of Talon, but of Fang. And her name is Namari. And when she meets her, it's like they are connecting well and whatnot. Everything's going well at the gathering. And Raya and Namari, they end up going to where the orb is. And Raya, she thinks that she has a new friend. And I just knew that something was going to happen. It's like, I didn't want to, think that Namari was up to no good, but she was. She ends up tricking Raya. They end up fighting each other. And then she shoots off a flare that gives the location of where the orb is. And all of the Fang soldiers, they end up, storming the place. Mm-hmm. And then all of the other nations, they end up coming there. And I just love like the fight choreography where Benja and Raya, they were defending the orb from all of the Fang soldiers. It was just really cool. And it was sad when, somebody had shot Benja in the knee with the arrow, because it's like all of the nations, they want to really get this orb. And then what ends up happening is the orb, it ends up breaking. And because it breaks, the drones, they end up coming back because now the orb is broken. And people are starting to get turned into stone and everything. And Raya and her father, he can't move but so fast because he ended up getting shot in the knee. If you ever played,
only one so far.
Yeah, exactly. Have you ever played the Elder Scrolls?
No.
Okay. There's this video game. I've never played it either, but there's this video game called the Elder Scrolls 5. And there's a running joke where it's just like, I would still be a soldier if I would have never got shot in the knee. And like, that's what I was thinking of when I saw this. But anyway, he ends up, sacrificing himself so he could save Raya. And he pushes her in the water with part of the orb. The other,
he just chucks her off.
Yeah, he just
Bridge.
he just throws her off the bridge and she lands in the water. And also too, the other nations, they end up taking pieces of the orb so that way they can have some sort of power, because that's what they thought, that the orb would bring good fortune to their nations and stuff like that. It's just like everybody has their own agenda. Nobody trusts one another, and it was just messed up. Like, I'll say that when I saw everything that was happening in the beginning, I felt sad when her father tossed her off and he turned to stone. It reminded me of Big Hero 6, and I can't remember the older brother's name, but remember,
Tadashi?
yes, and remember when he ended up. It's a good movie. And it reminded me of that. And then we moved 6 years later down into the future, and Raya is on a quest to restore the nation. Like, she wants to, get rid of the drones, and she is trying to revive Sisu, so that Sisu. I keep saying Sisu. I don't know why I keep saying Sisu. It's Sisu. Sorry about that, but she's trying to revive Sisu, and she ends up doing it. And when Sisu comes back, she thinks that like it's still the same day as when she used the power of the orb to get rid of the drone. But
like, hey, come back from the ice sculpture. Like, there were so many parallels. I'm like, the kind of like childish, naive character who just wants to kind of play and make friends, who's been trapped, who's lost everyone that they've ever known and loved, is suddenly brought back, and it's like, I believe that they can save the world. Like, that was the moment. But with Awkwafina,
it's it was cool. I mean, like how you're saying, like how she's kind of like a child, because I mean, technically she is, because she was the youngest out of the dragons. And she also didn't have her own special ability like the other dragons had. She just said that her ability was she was a good swimmer. But I feel like that plays into, later on in the movie when we see, I feel like the dragons, because each has their own type of power, it kind of reminds me of like Greek mythology, where it's like, the Greek gods, like they all had some sort of power that helped the earth pretty much move, you know what I'm saying? And we end up finding that out with Sisu. I don't know why I keep on mispronouncing her name. Jesus Christ. Sisu.
Awkwafina.
Yeah, that's what I really want to call her.
She's a water dragon, and her name is Awkwafina, or the actress.
It's like
it's Awkwafina.
It's like, as soon as I heard her talk, I was just like, yo, is that Awkwafina? And I was just like, that is Awkwafina. I looked it up. Same thing with Raya. Like, Kelly Marie Tran voices her, and my friend, she told me about it. I was just like, she really does. Like, that's awesome, because it's like, I love her. I loved her in the Star Wars movies. I don't care what people say. Screw those people that made her leave social media. Y'all are jerks. Y'all are big.
They were so incredibly harsh to her, and she has such a sweet spirit.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to see that, the Disney Corporation gave her this amazing opportunity to not just become a Disney princess, which is a huge thing in and of itself, but also to be this princess warrior, which is something we haven't seen very much of. Like, even you have brought up Mulan. Mulan, we think of her as a princess, but in no shape or form is she technically a Disney princess. We just accepted her as that, and lifted her up to the pedestal that she deserves, because Mulan is so wonderful. That's one of those movies that you can watch anytime, and then she inhabits the dragon spirit, and she's like, I'm gonna go and save my father, and then she does even more than that and saves all of China. You're just like, this is the greatest character ever, and I feel so inspired. I gotta go and do something incredible. So it's really nice to get to see her get to play that role.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, and I thought that she killed it. She knocked it out of the park. We see that once she finds Sisu, they're trying to collect the rest of the orb, so that way that, like I said, they can restore the world to the former glory that it was. And on Raya's on Raya's path, like tracking her down, is Namari, and she pretty much just wants to stop Raya from doing what she's trying to do. But at the same time, it's like she wants the same thing that Raya wants as well. But
Yeah.
I feel like, she is the Prince Zuko here. You know what I'm saying? Where it's just like she wants to please her mother, but at the same time, she wants to do what's right. So
Yeah.
she's chasing Raya and Sisu, they end up escaping, and they end up meeting Bone, who has a shrimp boat. And we see this throughout the movie, that there are a lot of people who lost their families because of the drone coming back. And Boone, he has a shrimp boat, and he says that he stays out in the water because the
It's
drone,
safe
they
out on the
can't
water. Yeah.
exactly, they can't come in the water. Also, too, Sisu, she can transform into a human now. So it's like Raya, she doesn't want anybody to know that there are any dragons anymore, because it's like if people knew that there were dragons, they would freak out. Becca, I wanted to ask you, the Namari, like, how do you feel about her from, when we saw her in the beginning to now she's chasing after Raya to stop her from what she's trying to do?
The thing is, with this movie in particular, and with the motivations for the characters, I kind of feel like they went so heavy on the topics of greed and trust,
Yep.
like to a point where it was overwhelming, and I wanted them to give some subtlety and like dig a little bit deeper, because a lot of it was very surface and driving that same point home. I don't trust you, you're greedy. But if like anyone in this community would have had a moment to talk to each other and be like, you know what, actually having this dragon is super helpful. And if we're not greedy about trying to hold on to every little tiny piece that got broken up, if we actually helped each other out, we could solve this problem a lot faster and bring back everyone that we love.
Exactly.
Why are we doing this? Why am I making you my enemy? Like, even, and this is kind of jumping ahead, and I apologize for doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway. When it's Namari, right? Namari,
Yes. Yes.
She's responsible for things getting worse and losing someone that's close to her. But then she's still like mad at Raya. And I'm like, you know what you did wrong?
Exactly.
Like, you know exactly where you messed up. Why are you still trying to fight this person instead of addressing like where you messed up and how you caused your own grief? Like, you had the opportunity to make things right. You saw exactly, what Raya had in her corner, this dragon that you've been obsessed with since you were a child. Like, that's one of the things that was like really cute in the beginning, when they introduced them together as kids, becoming friends, before she turned and was like, haha, I'm gonna actually, which, by the way, I have to make a point of this, that space was not guarded properly at all. She's just like, hey, by the way, new friend that I just met 2 minutes ago, we shared some rice and beans. Not rice and beans, I'm Puerto Rican. We shared some rice. We like talked about dragons. Why don't you come over and see this most sacred thing that my like.
Yeah, it's like, why was there nobody there?
No one was there to protect it.
You make a really good point, because it's like, where were the soldiers? It's like, so you're telling me that Chief Benja was the only person there to protect this, and then he was training his daughter. Like, I understand, why you want to train Raya so that way that she can be the protector of the orb, but like, where were the other troops at? It's like,
especially when you knew that you were going to have every like tribe or kingdom come into your space. You're trying to build those relationships and reunite everyone, but you also know that someone may try to infiltrate and, get close to this thing that you supposedly have been protecting for 500 years, but your kid is just like, hey, want to see what my dad is hiding back here? Like, why don't you come along
Set
with
'em
me?
up.
And like, what was the point of all these booby traps? Like,
Yeah.
what was the point of like her having to, do this whole, what's that show from Nickelodeon where it's like the Temple of Doom kind of
Legend of the Hidden Temple.
Legend of the Hidden Temple. Yeah, like this whole what's the word that I'm looking for? Not a scavenger hunt, but like a maze kind of thing that you have to like overcome to get to the end. And she's just like, yeah, come on in. Check out this dragon stone. You're my friend. I trust you. And she's like, well, thanks for that. Let me ruin everything. But then get mad at you about it and then have to chase you down for the next 6 years and then fight you. I was like, girl.
Yeah, it was your fault. Like all of this is your fault. And it's like, I felt bad because Raya, it was her fault too, because she opened up, she trusted her. It's like, how many times do we meet people and they seem nice and we trust them only for them to screw us over? I feel like we've all been through that in our lives, and it sucks. And they were children. They were from 2 different nations, and Raya, she already didn't want to do this, but her father, it was his dream to bring everybody together again. And because of this is what happens. And this is something that a lot of the nations blame the Fang for, because they're the reason why all of this happened and to begin with. You know what I'm saying? Because when you think about it, all of the nations that were there at that gathering, they were just there. You know what I'm saying? Like they weren't there to try and get the orb. But we don't know. I'm pretty sure if the opportunity would have rose, that they would have taken the orb. But it was because of the Fang, and they're the Fire Nation. That's who they are. They're the Fire Nation. You know what I'm saying?
They're the Fire Nation. There's so many like connections to that. It's like there were all these different elements and all these different powers, and the one who could wield them all.
Yeah,
this
and it's
one
like
dragon has been trapped away
exactly.
for 500 years. She shows up. She's just like, I want to make friends. I want to hang out. Where are my siblings? Where are my friends? Where are the other dragons? What's been going on? Surely, if I go and bring them a present, they'll love me too. And we'll all be friends and sing songs together, and it'll be fine. And poor Raya is so jaded and so hurt. Like, she's like, no, I lost my dad, and I trusted one person when I was a kid, and I'm never going to do that again, because now she's chasing me all over the place. And the world is broken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we see that because it's like she wants Sisu to stay on the ship, like not to even trust Bone, who is a little kid. You know what I'm saying? But I understand why she has trust issues, because the world is in this state because of her. And they end up going to the Talon tribe, where she tells Sisu to stay on the ship, because it's like the village that they're in, it's like, there are a bunch of pickpockets there and whatnot, and they'll steal from you. And Raya, she ends up, getting the 2 orbs, which I don't understand why she would even have on her. She should have just left them on the ship. But she ends up getting them stolen.
She took it to protect herself,
which makes sense.
It's still like.
It's like she should have just left them on the ship.
Leave it on the ship.
Yeah, she should have just left them. She should have just left them there. And
can I just say this really quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I know that I'm 100% wrong about this, but when she comes across the old lady, I could have sworn I thought that was Betty White at first.
Oh,
and I was like, that can't possibly be Betty White. They would not hire her for this movie, but I for sure thought for a second, I was like, is that Betty?
Yeah, and speaking of the old lady, it's like when she showed up, like I knew something was going on, because it's like, remember, like all of the, because Sisu, she ends up leaving the ship because Boone tells her that, you know, if you don't have any money, then you can just have credit, where it's like you'll pay everybody later. So Sisu, she leaves the ship and then she just starts taking everything, and she's just like, oh, just put it on credit, I'll pay you later. And then when all the villagers are just like, hey, when are you going to pay us? We don't even know who you are. And she's just like, well, I'm here with Raya. She has the orbs and we're trying to save the world and whatnot. And the lady's just like, oh, I'll take you to the person. And the lady, she ended up being the leader of the nation. And when she was about to pretty much get Sisu turned into stone, Raya, she ends up showing up and she has the orb, and then they hop on the boat and then they're off on their way. It's interesting because it's like how you said earlier with Sisu, you know, saying that, you know, you should trust people and, you know, all you have to do is just be friends and all this other stuff. And it's just like, you know, she saw what happened. She saw like the type of people, like, you know, 500 years has passed now. And it's just like the people that were around when you were around, it's like they're not as kind as they used to be. Mm-hmm. But I understand why she wants to push that kindness and that positivity on people, because it's just like, that's how we all need to be. You know, you should be kind to people. You should trust people. But at the same time, it's just like, you don't want to trust them too much. So like how you said earlier, there are levels of trust. I will say that much. And with Raya being betrayed and being you know, used, like I just understand like why she's the way that she is and why she keeps telling Sisu, you know, not to trust everybody. You can't be friends with everybody.
I mean, they got robbed by a baby.
Yeah, exactly. and not just a baby with 3 monkeys. Yo,
this baby. And then like
I love that baby. Like,
oh my God, I hated the baby. Like, because I was like, how is this baby this corrupt so quickly? And in my head, I'm like, surely this baby does not have someone looking after them. And then they show like her mom at the end, and I'm like, someone needs to have a talk. Like,
it was
you cannot have your baby out here like robbing people and hopping on boats and acting crazy and making friends with monkeys. Like, none of this is acceptable.
Well, Becca, you have to remember, because remember Raya, she asked like, where are your parents at? And one of the monkeys, you know, it does the pose, you know what I'm saying? Like when they turn into stone. So that's the reason why she was on the mean streets trying to survive. She was trying to do what she had to do.
Somebody's mean streets.
I mean, they were mean streets. I mean, you saw how they treated Sisu, and it's like she didn't even know any better. Like they were ready to hang her. Like, well, this is like,
you know, they were ready to chop off, you know, Princess Jasmine's hand for taking an apple.
That's true. That is true.
You know, that was just an apple. This girl, she was taking everything. She's like, I'm going to take the hat and this wig, and I'm going to take these bags.
She's trying to get gifts. Trying to get gifts.
Mannequin, she's like, I need this, you know, credit, right? Credit's fine. And that's such a like childish mindset, which is, it's endearing coming from her, but it's like really funny too, because I was having this conversation with Tom earlier today. It was like, kids just have no concept of bills and money and earning and paying for things. They're just like, oh, well, just put it on the credit card. You can do that. It's like, no, I need to have the money to cover this.
Yeah.
She's like, I mean, I don't have any pockets or any money, but credit? It's like, you have no concept of what that means. We have no idea who you are. You have no credit here. Why are you taking everything? Take what you need, baby. But she's just like, this looks cute, and I like that, and that's coming with me. Put it in the cart. On credit. No.
Yeah, it don't work. You know, like how you said with you and Tom when y'all were talking, and also just to let our viewers know, Tom White is a friend of Leveling Up with Benjamin Bankton. We've had him on the podcast. Great guy. Go and check out that video review. It's on our channel. I wanted to say that when I was a kid, when my father used to take me to Blockbuster, whenever we would return a movie, I would always just go and grab a movie and just pretty much walk out of the store with it. Now, back in those times, the movies were actually inside of the VHS tape. You know what I'm saying? They didn't have to go and grab it like they did when Blockbuster was still around. If you don't know what Blockbuster is, look it up.
If you don't know what Blockbuster is, you're too young.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So, I would always go inside and I would always just take, grab something and just leave with it. And this is how it was a lot of times. Like, I remember, like, I would go into 7-Eleven and like I would get a Slurpee, fill it up, and just walk out of the store. And not knowing that my dad, he was always the one that was, purchasing everything. So I remember one time I was with my mom and I had got a Slurpee and I had walked out of the store. I can't remember. I think she was filling up the gas tank and I had snuck out of the car, went inside, got a Slurpee, and then I walked back to the car. And I remember the lady, she came chasing me out of the 7-Eleven, and she was just like, "You didn't pay for that." And I was just like, "Pay? What are you talking about?" I was just like,
Princess Jasmine moment. You're like, I'll get money from the palace.
Yeah, I thought everything was free. I remember my mom, she ended up paying for it, and I did end up getting my tail whooped that night because pretty much I had stole a Slurpee. You know what I'm saying? And so
on that credit.
Exactly. I thought it was on credit. I didn't know. But getting back to Raya, they end up traveling to the next tribe, the Spine tribe, and they end up getting captured by Tong. And Tong, he's kind of an idiot. He's a lovable idiot, which I loved about him. And he doesn't want to hurt them for real. He's been alone in his village. We find out that everybody in his village, they got turned to stone when they tried to fight the Droon. And Namari, she ends up showing up. She has her gang with her and whatnot, and they want Raya. And Raya, she tells Tong, she's just like, "Hey, if you can just please like help out my friends here and whatnot, so that way they can get away. I'll be the distraction, so that way y'all can escape, because I know how to push Namari's buttons." And like, that's something that I love. So I know that Namari has been chasing her. At the start of the movie, we see that, but 6 years has passed, so we don't know what has been going on within that 6 years. Like, how many times did they encountered each other? But for her to still have that relationship with her, where it's like they never really fight each other, but we do see the fight, and the choreography was just amazing when they were fighting each other. And this movie, it was giving me stuff that I kind of wasn't expecting, like, because it's like, sometimes it's like you watch these animated films and whatnot, and it's kind of like just a normal fight, but like they were giving it their all. Like, that's why I said, like, when I was getting the Mulan vibes from this, it was just amazing. It was awesome. They end up escaping, and they escape because Sisu, she looks into Namari's eyes, and like Namari just stops in her tracks. And I feel like when she looked into her eyes, she was just like, she wants the same thing that you want. You need to trust her. And she's just like, no, because she did this to me, I could never trust her again. She's the reason why the world is like it is now. And our heroes, they just keep on traveling. And Sisu, I don't know if we mentioned this early on, but every time they get an orb, she ends up getting a new power, just kind of like the Avatar, where the Avatar, every time he goes to a different nation, he ends up getting a new power, pretty much.
Water bending, he learned.
Exactly. So, and then while they're on the ship, because Becca, she didn't know this before we started recording the episode, but we find out that the child who is, we forgot to mention this too, but the child and the monkeys, they end up traveling with Raya, Boone, and Sisu. And we find out the child's name is Noi. And like, Raya, she was just like, what did you just call her? And it's just like, it's Noi.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it's Noi. Like she has it
He's like, we
written.
didn't even bother to check to learn each other's names here.
Yeah.
Like, it's an interesting found family
Yeah.
dynamic that they have.
And I'm saving this connection for the end of the episode because yeah, it's like I don't want to say it because I know it's probably gonna get you hyped when I say it. I mean, you probably already thought about it, but they end up going to the final tribe, which is the Fang tribe, and Sisu says that you should talk with Namari because I'm sure that y'all want the same thing. We can all work together and we can save the world. At Namari's mom, the queen, she's just like, you just need to get these orbs and we need to continue having power over all of the nations and stuff like that. And I'm just like, come on, mom. Like, you're just like the Fire Lord. Why do you want all this power? She already said that the other nations blamed them for what happened, which it is their fault. But when she said that, we'll figure out a way, like we'll do something so that way that we'll get all the orbs. I thought that she was gonna get Raya's dad's statue and was just gonna be like, either you give us all of the orbs or we're gonna smash this statue. That's what I thought was gonna happen. And then the movie would have
I think that would have been too harsh for this movie. Like,
yeah,
it's interesting with this movie that in regards to aesthetic and especially in regards to the editing and the choreography, as you mentioned before, that was really mature and taken to such a level. But then in regards to the relationships and the themes, they were very kind of in your face.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, okay, this person is only greedy. This person is only this, instead of like digging a little bit deeper and going to those kinds of places where it's like, you never actually saw her mom go full dark. Yeah. Like, if we're going to make the comparison to Avatar: Last Airbender, like Zuko's dad is absolute trash.
Yeah,
we know you feel it, like, and even before we see him, you're like, this man is trash. Like, he's a terrible person. And like, her mother didn't come across as evil as she was. Just it more so came from a place of not understanding how you can best serve everyone.
Yep.
To come to the same results that they're all looking for. They're all looking for protection. They're all looking for the world to be restored. And there's just a misunderstanding.
Yep.
That if I have the orbs, if I have the dragon, if I have this, then it's not even so much giving me the opportunity and power to rule over the other nations, but more so to protect me, because I know that they're already upset with me. They're already angry. They already blame us for what's wrong in the world. And I think, I feel so bad. Her name is, what's her name?
Namari.
Okay. I couldn't think of it in the moment.
Yeah, cool.
Namari has this underlying rage, and it's unfounded. Like, you don't really have a real villain story. You're not a bad person. You're not someone, you know what I mean? Like, you're not trying to rule over everyone. So much of it comes from a place of self-preservation. And I think that's an important thing to point out in the movie, is that if someone is coming from a place that's just pure evil, they just are seeking to destroy others, to control others, all of those things, that's not someone you can trust.
Exactly.
But someone who is not understanding their place in this overlying unity and seeking that goal along with you, if they're not understanding how they can, pursue that same goal with you and work together and create that unity and trust one another, then that person is going to make themselves into your enemy where they don't need to be.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. It's just interesting how you said it's just like there really are no villains in this movie. It's just that people, they don't have the knowledge, and it's kind of like it's very greed. Like, everybody wants to have a piece of the pie, but they want to. It's like everybody wants to have a piece of the pie, but they want to have the biggest slice of the pie. They don't want to. They don't want to have equal slices. So, I'm really hoping. I'm going to say this once we get to the end too, so I'll save that for later. But I agree. Like, there really wasn't a true villain in this movie. There were just people that were making bad choices. But yeah, I mean, they end up meeting up with Namari and Raya. She tells her, it's just like, I still have the gift that you gave me from when we were kids, and I just think that we should work together so that way we can save the world, because we both want the same thing. And of course, Namari, she's just like, well, I have to please my mother. And that's again where I was, where I draw the comparisons with her and Zuko, because it's just like, I have to please my father. I have to capture the Avatar. And she ends up, pulling her arrow on Sisu, and not, I was about to say somebody else, but Raya, she tries to save her, and she ends up getting shot. Sisu ends up getting shot. She falls into the water, and when she falls into the water, all of the water starts drying up. So it just goes back to what I was saying earlier, where it's just like all of the dragons have these abilities, and it's just like when you don't have all of the dragons there, stuff just starts happening in the world, and all the water's gone now. The water was the only thing that was keeping the Droon back, and now because there's no water, they pretty much have free reign over all the land. So Raya, she ends up leaving the rest of the orbs with the rest of the gang, and she goes to confront Namari. They end up fighting. I forgot to mention too, like, Raya has this sweet sword where it's like a dragon sword. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of like a whip, and I thought that was really cool. I loved her sword. I loved the fight that they had, and the rest of the gang, they end up showing up to the Fang village, and they're saving people. And what I loved about this is that you have people from different nations working together, and it's just like, it doesn't matter if you're from the Fang or if you're from the Spine or whatever. Like, we all have one common enemy. And when I think about it, like, the Droon, they were the true villains of the movie. So we did have villains in the movie, even if there wasn't like a legit main villain of the movie.
It was a faceless villain.
Yeah, it was a faceless villain. So they're all working together, and we see that the orbs are able to pretty much hold the Droon back. And Raya and Namari, they finally put their differences aside, and they're just like, okay, what are we gonna have to do? Like, we need to put the orbs together. So they're all together. Like, people are turning into stone and whatnot. Like, they're outnumbered. And something that Sisu says earlier before she dies is that you have to start trusting people again. Trust begins when you pretty much trust the person. You know what I'm saying? You have to open up. That's the only way that you're going to become friends. And Raya, she's just like, well, we all need to put the orbs together. And then everybody's just like, no, like, we're not going to trust her. Like, she's the reason why everything's going on right now. And Raya's just like, well, you know what, I'm going to take the first step. And they all come together. They start putting the orb together. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier. This reminded me of Guardians of the Galaxy. Do you think so? That, like, right?
I didn't even like connect the two, but I see exactly the scene.
What was his name? It was Rome.
Which just reminded me how much I love Guardians of the Galaxy.
Exactly. I told you that you was gonna mark out for this. I told you.
Just like, that was such a great moment where they like hold hands and be like,
they were holding hands.
For the Guardians.
Exactly. And that's what this scene reminded me of, because it's like they were all coming together. Think about it. Like, it was 5 of them. There were 5 Guardians, and they all came together. They made the orb. And even though they made the orb, they all turned to stone, but they made it in the nick of time, and the orb just pretty much erases the drone. It turns everybody back. It unstones them, and
kind of did the opposite of Guardians of the Galaxy, where like when they held hands, they all shared the power, so they evenly dispersed it amongst themselves, and they're like, no, we're all gonna turn to stone together. Like,
pretty much,
hope for the best.
Yeah, pretty much it was the end, and they were able to save everybody. Like all of the dragons, they became free. Everybody became free, and it was awesome that this happened. And Raya, she ends up, I mean, everybody goes back to, you know, their homes and whatnot. They see their families, and it was just a really happy ending to the movie. And when Raya is with her father, she's like, you know, there are some people here that want to see you. And it's like all the nations come there, and her father's wish that we saw in the beginning of the movie for all the nations to come back together, so that way that we could get, you know, all of them together under one roof again. It happens. Really good movie. Definitely, like I said earlier, the choreography with the fights and everything, the music was on point, the voice acting was on point. I thought everybody did a phenomenal job. Becca, what were your thoughts? Like, what do you give this movie? I said earlier online that I gave it a 9 out of 10. That's my rating for the movie.
Yeah.
Like, what are your final thoughts on this? What rating do you give the movie?
I give it a 6.5.
What?
I'm sorry.
For real?
Yeah, I think
I gotta
that
hear
like
this.
where it was strongest is in the animation, the design, and the editing. But I'm very much a story and like dialogue person, and I felt that they could have pushed it to be a bit more serious, and I feel like that would have carried a lot more weight to it. So like, if I were to compare it to like the last, you know, new Disney movie that came out with like Pixar, obviously like with that, it was very much rooted in like New York life, and then a very unique concept of what the afterlife may be. It definitely did not have these amazing action sequences. It didn't have that quick pace editing and such a wide variety of designs as they had in this movie. But I think that the overall weight, like emotional weight that was carried throughout, and the overarching themes, I feel like were a bit more complex. And I think I wanted more complexity and like depth to that, because yes, it is sad to know that these characters lost family members and loved ones, but there's other things like, you know, I know you just talked about WandaVision. When you talk about like the grief, when you see it and experience, there's a difference when you like feel the weight of that person's loss and feel the depth of their grief and their anger and all those things. And I feel like for some of those more complex emotions, they fell flat and a little bit surface level for me in this movie, which is fine because it, I think, is more geared towards children, and that's okay. But for me, it didn't resonate as hard.
Yeah, I can understand that. You know, like how you just said, where it's geared towards children. When Soul came out, like I know we had talked about that, where Soul felt like it was a movie, like even though it was a kids movie, like if you were an adult, you would relate more to the movie because of the adult themes in the film, which you know, you normally don't really get in a lot of children's movies. So I mean, I get where you're coming from, and like that's a you know, because I was expecting that you were going to give it a high rating as well. So that's pretty interesting that you gave it that rating. I agree with you on like the whole the seriousness of the film, where I do feel like it was serious because it's like they were trying to save the world. But again, like there wasn't like a real villain. Like there wasn't somebody controlling the drone and whatnot. And that's what I want to bring up, where I feel like that this movie does need a sequel. And if it does have a sequel, I want to see an evil dragon. That's what I would love to see in the sequel.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm gonna make 2 comments.
Okay.
So we have already discussed that there's a lot of parallels that we picked up on with Avatar: Last Airbender, and I think that with that series and why, one of the reasons why it didn't necessarily work in just like a standalone film, and I mean, like there's a lot of things, but within those 3 seasons, there was so much. There were definitely moments of humor and lightheartedness that are classic and enjoyable, but it also carried a lot of depth and weight. You connect to these characters and you feel the seriousness of what's going on around them, and you have time to sit with those different emotions. So I think it is harder sometimes to capture all of that in a single children's film, and also include, this whole world, domination, this world, just chaos that's going on that they need to solve. It's hard to do that for a children's film.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the reasons why I probably didn't hit all of the emotional notes that I wanted it to. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about is dragons real quick, because dragons are so cool and interesting, and they show up in almost every culture to some capacity. And I think it's really interesting the way that they handle dragons. There isn't a fear of the dragons. There is a reverence in the film for the dragons, for the power that they wield. They're never afraid of them, and there's never a need to adjust to suddenly living with them, because that's something that would be very interesting. Like, not only are we as a community, as all these different nations coming together and creating that unity, mending the bond that's been broken all these years, but also our world is full of this magic and all of these dragons, and all of them possess these different powers that control different elements, and they are interwoven, and they're doing some really cool things. And no one is batting an eye. Like, no one is freaking out about these dragons. They're not like, wow, we haven't had these in thousands of years. Like, suddenly they've returned and they're so magical and majestic. Look at what they're doing over the water. No one bats an eye. They're just like, this is
They're
great.
just happy.
Let's have peace.
Yeah, we're happy. We got dragons here now. Let's just all live together in harmony. And that's why I said I feel like that there does need to be a sequel to this movie. There needs to be like a villain. I want to see an evil dragon. I want to see this dragon who wants to get rid of humans, so that way that dragons will pretty much just inherit the earth. Because if it wasn't for the humans, like, none of the dragons would have ever became stone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
it was only the people who were causing problems. The dragons were chilling.
Exactly. The dragons were just there.
Powers. We're looking out for you guys. You guys are like, I'm sorry.
Exactly. So yeah,
as people do.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I was saying that the people were messing up, as people do. Dragons are chilling. Nature's trying to go about its business, in all of its majesty and wonder. And humans are just messing everything up and being greedy, like they do.
Not trusting each other.
Not trusting each other, causing these problems, getting into really cool fights. Teaching babies to pickpocket and
smile and laugh
in these streets.
Look, man, that was my favorite character of the movie. It was Noi. It was just something about her. She was adorable, and the facial expressions that she was making and everything. I loved it. That was my favorite character. Before we wrap this thing up, who was your favorite character in the movie?
It was the dragon. It was. Is
Sisu,
it Sesu?
Sisu, yeah,
You
I
want to
love
say
her.
Cece or Ceci or I don't know. I loved Aquafina. Like,
Yeah,
I think I really like the design. I think she's so pretty. Um, I love her human form. I wasn't sure if she had the ability to switch back and forth between the dragon form and her human form um, whenever she wanted to. It seemed like she was kind of locked in to one form or the other at a given time. So I don't know the magic rules around that, but I thought that like she was so endearing and so well animated. I think she was probably my favorite character.
nice. Yeah, I mean, all of the characters were cool, but I mean, like I said, Noi was my favorite. Sisu was your favorite. And with that being said, everybody, thank you for watching this review. Let us know in the comments what you thought about the movie. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Who was your favorite character? Let's talk about it. I'll respond to you. Becca, again, thank you for joining me on today's review. I
Thank you.
appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you recommending this movie so that way I can watch it because like I really did enjoy it.
I'm so glad you enjoyed it like
I
that.
loved it. I
That's
loved it.
great.
So
I would have been mad if I recommended it and you were like, "Man, I spent this $30 for narrow access. And this movie was trash." Like, I
well,
would have been like, "Ooh, I'm sorry."
well, it had to have been worth it because I will say that I did see the trailer for Mulan, even though I don't like watching trailers. Like I had to check it out, and when I saw the trailer, I was just like, I'm not sold on this. And then when it was just like it's $30, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely not watching this movie, even though it's on Disney Plus now. So I
Yeah.
might check it out now that I don't have to pay the $30. But if it's worth it, like if Avengers Endgame was coming to Disney Plus and we hadn't seen it, it's like you gotta pay $30 for it. And I was like, all right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did look into possibly seeing it in theaters, and I was like, nah, I'll watch it from home, because otherwise it would have been like way too much hassle. It's a tough time. I
Yeah.
miss theaters. I miss the experience. The last movie I saw in theaters was Onward, um, but I was like, especially for today, you know, you had the release of the finale of WandaVision,
Yep.
the Coming to America sequel, this movie. So I'm going to watch this movie again for sure, which is one of the reasons why I'm glad I, paid for the premium access so I can rewatch it and really get a feel for it and see if my opinions of it change.
I hope
But
so.
I think that today, especially with that kind of lineup, there was a lot of different emotions and things to process and evaluate. So, yeah, I will definitely like rewatch it again and let you know if I appreciate the movie more on that second watch.
Cool. Yeah, I feel you on that. It's similar to when Soul and Wonder Woman came out on the same day, and I was just like, man, Soul is way better than Wonder Woman. You know what I'm saying? So, with that being said, like I said, Becca, thank you again for joining us. Let everybody know in social media land where they can find you at.
So you can find me on Instagram at River Moriarty or at Feathers and Song.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you can find me, your hero, Benjamin Banks, at KingBenji_Banks on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me on Facebook by typing in Benjamin Banks. I should be the first person to pop up. If not, then I need to contact Mr. Zuckerberg. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure you check out some more of our reviews. I'll see you next time. Keep that pinky up. Peace. Thank you for watching a brand new episode of Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. Make sure that you hit that like button and you subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell button so that way you're always notified when we have new content on our channel. Make sure you check out our podcast where we release new episodes every Tuesday, and the video of that episode is uploaded on Friday. And you can find new episodes of our podcast on all podcast platforms. Make sure you follow all the Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks social media accounts at Leveling Up Banks on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, we have a Patreon. If you're feeling generous and would love to donate to us, it's at Leveling Up Banks. And huge shout out to our patrons. We really appreciate you and thank you for the support. We'll see you next time on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks.